My name is William Wright. I've been practicing law since 1999, graduated from Campbell. During that time period, I have probably since the beginning handled personal injury cases. And they can be anything and everything from automobile accidents. Motor vehicle accidents are probably the most common type of personal injury cases, but there's others. There's premises liability, where you have people who slip and fall or get injured on somebody's property. Or you can have even boating accidents, which get into admiralty, but they're still a personal injury case. They're just personal injury cases, typically on water. You can have property damages that come with it, but that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've probably handled hundreds of personal injury cases, and every single one of them is different. You have to learn about the injuries that happen with those type of cases. Sometimes you'll have a personal injury case that involves your neck and back, and those are probably the most common soft tissue cases that we get calls about. And they present their own specific problems in proving causation and damages in those types of cases. The more, what I would say, easier to prove as far as damages and causation are the ones where you have an apparent injury, a broken bone, a compound fracture, a torn rotator cuff, torn ligaments in your knee or your ankle, or things of that nature. Again, the soft tissues, which they're not readily apparent, but you may have a strain in the back or the neck, and typically involve some type of orthopedic or chiropractic care, are the more difficult to prove those causation and damages. Some of the pitfalls that I talked about in my written blog last week is, and these are the #1 defenses that the insurance companies and their attorneys want to use in these types of cases, are delay in treatment. You have an accident, or you have a slip and fall, or you have something that happens and you don't immediately go to the doctor even though you feel like you're hurt. And when you have a personal injury, or let's say a motor vehicle accident, and oftentimes the police officer, if they do show up there, will say, "Are you hurt?" That's one of the questions they'll ask. "And do you need an ambulance?" So I'm not asking you to fabricate claims or things of that nature. If you're not hurt, then tell them the truth. "I'm not hurt, I don't need it." But if you feel you are hurt, that's not the time to be a tough guy or a tough girl. Go get checked out. Because #1, that'll tell you what's going on with you and give you a baseline of, this is what happened after the accident, and this is my condition after the accident. And then there's no question that you were hurt or felt you were hurt at the time of that accident. And so then the insurance company can't say, "Well, you didn't go seek treatment on the date of the accident. It was a week or 2 or 3 or 4 or a month later." And sometimes it takes a while for that injury to come into effect. So that's the #1 thing. If you think you're hurt, don't be a tough guy. Go seek some type of medical treatment. Either go to the emergency room. If you don't need an ambulance, then go on your own. Go see your regular treating physician and report what's going on to you. Be accurate with your physician. That's the #2 thing. I've had some clients who've come in, and again, I talked about this in my blog, who have come in to me and they were hurt as a result of the accident, and sometimes even bad, but they didn't tell their doctor or whoever saw them in the emergency room that they were in an accident because they didn't want to be treated differently. They didn't want them to go, "Oh, you're just here for money." Look, part of a doctor's diagnosis of you, they have to do a differential diagnosis, meaning they have to knock out what are the possible causes of your injury. And if you're not accurate with them about what has happened to you and your condition prior to that incident, whether it be the wreck or the slip and fall or whatever, then the doctor's not getting accurate information and can't accurately diagnose you and treat you to help you get better. And second, the medical records are the #1 bit of evidence, even greater than, in some instances, the testimony of the parties of what your conditions were before the wreck or the incident and what your conditions were after. And that, oftentimes, the insurance companies and their attorneys are going to ask for medical records, sometimes even 10 years prior to what happened so that they can pick any little point in time that you had a similar claim or complaint than what you're having after that wreck. And my analogy of the defense, it's a lot easier to be a defense attorney in a personal injury claim than it is to be a plaintiff's attorney. Number one, because we have the burden of proving all your injuries and the extent of those injuries and what they are. All the defense attorneys have to do, I draw an analogy, it's like a dartboard full of balloons, and they're throwing darts to try and pop those balloons. And every one of those balloons that they pop, they're trying to make your recovery smaller, whether it be from a jury award or a settlement purpose. So, you know, the first one they're going to throw is pre-existing condition. Did you have a neck injury or an ankle injury or a shoulder injury or a knee injury in that area that you're complaining about now? Pop. And if you don't tell the doctor beforehand, hey, yeah, I had a problem with my knee back in 1995, but it resolved itself and I haven't had any problems whatsoever until I had this wreck, then that's not going to be in your medical records. They're going to go back to that 1995 or 2005 or whenever that pre-existing condition was and point to that and say, see, it wasn't the wreck, it was this that caused your problem. So there's your number one, the pre-existing condition. Number two, the delay in treatment. You didn't go see the doctor immediately after the wreck, so you weren't really hurt, you're fabricating this, you're a malingerer, no. Then number three is giving the doctors accurate information. You didn't even tell the doctor, for example, you didn't even tell the doctor you were in the wreck. And you're saying, oh, well, yeah, I don't know what caused my neck injury. Well, isn't it true you had a wreck right before you went and saw the doctor? Why didn't you tell them? So give the doctors accurate information, because your medical records and those doctors' testimony are going to be one of the top things that are at issue in your case. So again, if you're hurt, go get checked out and seek treatment. If you do go to see a physician, be as detailed and accurate with that physician about what your condition was prior to the wreck, what the wreck did to you. You know, if it was a horrific wreck and it totaled your car and you were knocked out or whatever, give him as much information, or her, whatever the physician may be, as much information about that wreck. And then C, or three, give them as much information about what your complaints are, you know, where you're hurting, and everything, every place that you are hurting. I've had cases where my clients have come in and they were complaining about their neck or their back because that was the most painful thing they had at the time, and that's all they reported to the physician. But also at that time their shoulder was hurting and their wrist was hurting and their knee was hurting, or other things. Tell them everything that is hurting you so that it is detailed and it's in those records, because you may have a neck or a back strain at that time that's not really something big, but the force of that impact may have torn your rotator cuff. I had a lady that did that. She was complaining about her neck and her back. She didn't report the shoulder pain to the doctor even though she was in pain, and that's what she told me. I believe her to this day, but it wasn't in that original medical record. So then a month later, when that shoulder hadn't resolved and the neck and back pain had resolved, and she goes back and says, yeah, my shoulder's been hurting since the wreck. Well, then the insurance company and their attorney says, well, look, you didn't report it on that first day, so you really didn't have that. That happened somewhere else. And again, he's trying to throw those darts, or the defense attorney's throwing those darts to pop those balloons. And then if you do seek treatment and you do have an injury, continue on and follow the doctor's orders. That's the other thing that happens, is you go seek treatment, you go get checked out, and then you try and be tough guy, tough girl, and don't follow up, and then you've got a 6-month gap in treatment. And then when you go back, the defense attorneys and the insurance companies, they're throwing those balloons and throwing those darts to pop those balloons and trying to say, well, look, you had 6 months between your last doctor visit and this doctor visit where you didn't report anything to anybody. You were okay. Something else caused this pain that happened after those 6 months. So I don't mean to be paranoid, but I'm trying to lay out to you guys, these are the pitfalls in a personal injury case. If it does happen and you have been injured, again, report it, give detailed information, seek treatment, and follow up with that treatment and do what the doctors tell you to do.